It's pretty awesome.
What's that?
It's a Segway.
Oh,
What is it, Matthew? What have we got here?
It's pretty awesome.
It's very
Hard to
awesome.
it's a grey box.
It's a grey box. It's an Awesomatix A12.
Wow.
Awesomatix A12.
What's an A12?
Now, as you guys may or may not know, Yokomo haven't had a 12 scale pan car available for quite some time.
Yep.
Matt said, look, I want to go pan car racing. I want to start getting ready for the national on-road titles this year. And I said to him, I think you should probably be looking towards an Awesomatix.
Mhm.
So we called up RC Maker.
Yep.
And yeah, he's put us in, he's hooked us up with Awesomatix A12.
Okay,
This
let's have a
is for
look.
Matt to campaign. And we're probably not going to do a build on this. We're definitely not going to do a build on this, but I bet Matthew will probably bring it in or share some photos with us.
Sure.
About the finished product, and they are quite revolutionary.
Yeah, there's
So-
a real departure from a traditional
Pan car.
pan car.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I suppose Awesomatix is known for that more than anything else.
Correct.
Like their touring cars or their 1/10 on-road touring cars are quite a departure from anything else that we saw before.
Definitely new thinking.
Crazy with their leaf spring and their damper units
Mhm.
and stuff like
It's a
that.
rotary paddle system.
The
inside it,
rotary
yeah.
paddle system in the damper unit. So it was all completely, and it was really wild.
We've got a viewer here. Who's
Who's the viewer?
It's Nicola. He wants to know, is that for me?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I don't know if we can answer that on
I don't know.
camera.
I've
Live.
seen what he's done to a UDR. I don't know how he'd go with a 12 scale, mate.
4.5 ton or 3.5 ton
That's right.
bolted in.
Velodrome, Nick. I reckon it. Yeah, all right. I reckon we'll build one for the Velodrome.
Imagine the sand in there.
Oh, imagine the crunchy. But it's a good gear diff, this one.
This
So
one does. Well, actually, it's an option.
it's
Okay.
an option. So
All
it
right.
comes with a solid axle.
That's
is that right?
Yeah. So I think the original, well, the standard car, I think, is set up for carpet racing.
Yep.
Which they don't use a ball diff or any kind of diff. It's a solid axle.
Yep.
Yep.
There's just oodles of grip, so
Yep.
they don't need to worry about a differential. But instead of the traditional ball diff, which is high maintenance on, I guess, our tracks, you've got to have buttery smooth diffs for these cars to work nicely.
Yes.
This offers something that's quite unique. It's not as I guess labour intensive in keeping the car going.
Yep.
And it offers a sealed diff unit, which is a standard, regular everyday bevel gear diff.
Yeah.
So it was something that we'd be familiar for in your touring car.
Correct.
Mm.
Tunable with diff oils, etc.
Yeah, so it's hydro filled.
That's right. And as I said, there is literally on a race day, you may have no maintenance, for instance, on a race day.
Yeah.
You may.
Whereas a ball diff, especially if you're changing spurs and pinions and stuff all the time,
That's right.
it's not so critical now, but when we were running brushed motors, it was phenomenal. And now we've got that much power of a 3.5 turn brushless motor, and what seems to be a phenomenal amount of energy in the 8200
Correct.
milliamp battery.
Yep.
We're putting that much power through these things now that, like Matt said, the ball diffs have evolved just don't hold them together.
No.
The other thing is, as soon as you run offline, as soon as you get that grit from the rubber tires, etc., or any dust pickup or anything like that,
you feel it.
You notice it straight away.
Yep.
Bringing a car back onto the line, you notice obviously there's pickup on the tires, but then you notice your steering's not as good, of course, because your diff's not working as well, because they're starting to pick up that grit and grease and grind. So this offers, I think, an opportunity where, as I said, less maintenance and probably a more consistent run as far as the 8-minute race goes.
Yep.
Nice.
That's really cool. So we did that. One of Awesomatix team drivers reached out and gave us a few setup, which is the copper springs here.
Yep.
Okay.
Steve Cornell reached out and got into touch with us, told us what we need to get this thing going.
Thank you, Steve.
And these are the 2 option parts. That's it. The rest of it is box stock.
So
I thought we'd do a bit of unboxing.
We've got the chassis and rear plate. So
that's quite unusual,
It is very unusual.
It's your kit, mate. You do with it as you will. Don't let me need sharp knives. You know that.
Yeah. I won't complain like I did with the blockhead when you were touching it.
I know.
That keyless. Please put it back in the box, Brett. But yeah, this is the chassis as such.
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
It's normally you have on a more traditional 12 scale, you've got a fixed chassis which would be filled in here as well, with a rear pod that pivots on a ball, and a shock over the top. Whereas this has a very, very revolutionary suspension system, where the chassis extends all the way to the rear, and the pod actually pivots further forward. So yeah, this is going to be a really interesting build. Be very, very interesting to drive.
So the battery pivots with the motor and stuff.
That's
yeah?
right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So all the heavy parts of the car are the pivots around the suspension.
Correct.
Right.
Because they figure that the rear wheels, being a solid axle, live rear axle, doesn't have its own suspension. So all those parts in line are kept in mind.
Okay. And the other idea around this too is chassis tweak. So it should provide, even a small incident, less work in making sure your chassis aren't tweaked or your build's not tweaked. In between races and so on. So yeah,
is that alloy?
That is alloy. It's aluminium.
There you go.
So alloy is good.
So they've gone away from carbon.
Carbon, not carbon.
Especially when Nicola says he'll do some Velodrome testing. It needs to be aluminium, doesn't it?
No worries, Nick.
So that is really, really cool. And the rear end too, is that alloy? I'm just going in there.
Sorry, go on. Sorry, I'm a bit slow at this. I've been under pressure this morning.
Wow.
So I'm guessing,
look at the machining on this.
With this particular design, it allows adjustments to suit pretty much any track.
Correct. Yep.
So whereas in the early days, I remember, you're running different thicknesses of chassis, different thicknesses of T-bars.
That's right.
O-rings.
But this should be this is all in one design.
So this looks like plastic, doesn't it? But it's certainly not. It's aluminium as well.
That is one piece CNC machine billet.
Wow.
Very nice.
You know what I mean? That is one chunk of alloy.
Yep. And with this design, the battery runs down the center. It doesn't run across the chassis.
Yep.
So obviously making sure we keep the center of gravity as low as possible.
Yep. Nothing in here labeled. Got some spring options.
So these
are the side pods.
Yep.
Is this for putting the what's that? The tensions.
Flex.
Yep. So the further back you go with the grub screw that goes in
harder
here,
it is.
The harder it gets.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
And it uses a rotary damper too. Is that right?
That's right. I was just looking for it. Actually, there it is.
Wow.
It's a rotary. So it goes across the car.
Yep.
Let's have a look on the camera.
Sorry. So just in the bag there, that's the damper there.
Yep.
So it goes across the car.
Yep.
And it's a paddle inside it.
Yep.
So how do you adjust the dampening with grease
with oil?
With oil.
With normal traditional shock oil.
Yep. Shock oil.
Okay.
And it'll have leverage points to adjust the softness or hardness on it if it's anything like the 10 scale.
Okay.
I haven't seen one. I'm really looking forward to I haven't seen one in the skin, so this is the first time I've seen one.
Pretty groovy, isn't it?
That is super cool.
I think that goes that way, doesn't it?
I don't know. We better read the instructions.
At some stage.
That is super cool. So that is an Awesomatix A12.
Wow.
So yeah.
Excited to get this and then to give this a go.
Yep.
I think 12 scale is it's probably one of the oldest forms of RC.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And it is still, this is cutting edge, but it is still pretty much rudimentary. It's the same way that it created. Front on page.
Yep.
It's the same way that it created. They're very, I don't know, fundamentally simple pan car.
Yep.
Pan car, I mean, usually just one plane of chassis, solid rear axle, or the rear pod doesn't actually have independent rear suspension, and foam tires, I suppose, which is the main thing.
Yep.
So, and that has been since the 70s or very early 80s.
Yes.
You know,
hasn't changed a lot, does it?
And it hasn't changed. I know. Yes, now like the particularly this car. I mean, that's a departure from the norm. But the other manufacturers, their 12 scales look like they did 10 or 20 years ago. You know.
So the biggest difference with most of the newer 12 scales is probably the servo position. The amount of chassis flex that they offer, the position of the shock relative to the mount on the chassis, etc.
Yeah, and to coincide with this, can I do a quick shot run?
Yeah, do a shot run.
Can I do a shot run?
Yeah.
All right.
Ease off.
Okay.
All right.
This is unplanned.
Because I guess with 12 scales, there were specific design philosophies that were carried on for a long time. So there's really basic ones from late 70s, 80s, and then you had Shoemaker and Coralie were very big in that scene. In Europe. That was a lot quicker than I thought.
You ran.
I did run.
You really did.
The shop's not that big.
Right.
What's that?
Latest shipment of MKS 12 scale servos.
That's a bit closer, eh?
Get right in there. I don't fancy on taking this one right out of the box because I don't have a home for this one yet.
Let me focus on.
What's going on, Beach? I'm here.
I'm trying to focus on. Where am I going?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I think I'm going in too tight.
Hello.
There we go.
Oh.
How's that? That's better.
Well, good. We can see the spec.
Sorry, what did you say?
Hang on.
Do you guys know
Here we go.
No, got no idea.
All right. So right now I'm looking at the specs. So this is the MKS HV50P. and this is a dedicated 12th scale pan car servo.
Yep.
Because they're very unique in the mounting and the size and the weight of the overall unit. Because every gram counts in the 12th scale.
Yep.
So at 3.7 volts, if you're using unboosted, we've got a torque rating of 3.75 kilos and a transit time of 0.157, which is remarkably fast at 3.7 volts.
Isn't it?
So if you're using a boosted BEC, you can get up to 8.3 kilos of torque and down to 007.
Yeah,
that is phenomenal, isn't it?
Yep.
So that is, and this whole thing only weighs 18.1 grams. Just come out again, Beach, for us. 18.1 grams.
It's absolutely tiny.
And that will be the perfect partner for Maddie's new A12 build.
Metal geared?
Don't ask me the hard questions.
It's shiny. It looks metal geared.
I will have metal gears in it. I don't know if it'll be, because it's all about weight.
Correct.
But it's not a cheap. This is a top of the line. Yeah, definitely the top one. Definitely is the spline and the thread and everything. That's definitely so you can have a machine thread in there. But yeah, so they are really cool. That is a brand new product into us. So MKS, they're doing fine servos for 12th scale as well.
Very classy.
Yeah, well, I haven't had a chance to talk about it because 12th scale's not really a thing until now. Look at this, some rudimentary stickers.
Really?
Thanks, Rod. I do love a good sticker.